Oh, wait a minute. That.
OHIOHIO. Buckeye Lounge, we run this game. Shrockstar Sean, remember the name. TG's lurking, Wolverine's fear. Scarlet and gray, make it loud and clear. TG and Sean, bringing that smoke. They stand in the paint, that ain't no joke. Tune in, turn up, let the show begin. The Buckeye Lounge, straight fire within. Buckeye Lounge, we run this game. Shrockstar Sean, remember the name. TG's lurking, Wolverine's fear. Scarlet and gray, make it loud and clear.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Buckeye fans of all ages, the Ohio podcast proudly brings you the Buckeye Lounge. I'm host, the Shrockstar Sean Schrock. Of course, with me, my partner in crime, the Wolverine Slayer herself, TG. And tonight, our special guest is Doug Lesmerises from the Kings of the North podcast and also part of the OSU media. Doug, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I apologize. I'm a little sweaty. I just got back. I told you guys I got back from a run. It was a brisk walk. So I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate the invite.
Hey, man, we're proud to have you on here, and just glad that you had the time for us. And I've been a big fan of yours. Used to follow you back when you were in the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
I appreciate it.
Some people don't realize back in the day there was not an internet. You had to get actually a newspaper. And I live in Northwest Ohio, kind of by the Sandusky area. So I'm close. I'm probably in the middle between Toledo and Cleveland. So I would get a subscription to the Plain Dealer, and the Plain Dealer had a lot of great sports writers in it back then. And
oh yeah,
Doug was part of it, along with like Terry Pluto, Bill Livingston, Bud Shaw. I mean, just great. Terry Pluto was another one. You guys it was awesome to read. So, I mean, that's how long I've followed Doug's work, and now you're killing it on the Kings of the North. And
well, I appreciate it. I always say people like you keep me employed. So thanks for following along. I was very lucky to be part of a staff with like a lot of Hall of Fame sports writers, Paul Hoynes and Mary Kay Cabot, and we had just so many great people come through there. Chris Fedor, it was an incredible staff to be part of.
Yeah, that's amazing. Honestly, I've been following you going back when you were on the King of the North podcast, and this is when I was like still a teenager in high school. So it was actually pretty cool watching you. And it still is too. I still do watch
old. This is one of those.
You're right. Okay, you're not.
I've been doing this business before you were born, TG.
I know you were, but I'm talking about from podcasting. I didn't know about you until I started seeing you on YouTube.
That's right. We got to reach everybody. So no, that's you got to adapt. So yeah, it's funny. I mean, to go from paper to the internet and now podcasting and YouTube and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, I should bring everybody in that way. So I appreciate it.
Looking back now, Doug, what did you enjoy the most out of? You've been a newspaper guy, internet guy, podcaster. I mean, you've done it all. What's probably your favorite thing out of all of it?
The modern era and having a show where people see your face, and it's not just this, and it's not just like the kind of thing you guys were doing. Even when we started doing videos at cleveland.com, we do little 3-minute stand-ups. And when we started that podcast, Buckeye Talk podcast in 2015, I love writing. I've been so lucky to cover Ohio State football. And the main thing that I've liked the most is covering something that people care so much about. And that has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with the success of Ohio State football, with the passion of Ohio State fans. And you do your job, but you can't control how good the team is. And you can't control how much people care. So I'm not from Ohio, and to sort of have been dropped into this And when I got here in 2005, not knowing a ton about Ohio State football, just incredibly fortunate to be part of it. But and you guys know this now, doing this show, when you do something like this, you just have a stronger connection to your audience. So I feel like I have a much better handle on what fans think. I feel closer to the fans. I feel that I'm serving them more directly. And that relationship, when I was writing stories, and Sean, you were reading them back in the day in the newspaper, that's great. And people might send you a letter in the mail. Remember when there was mail?
Yeah.
Put a stamp on a thing and lick it and put it on an envelope and send somebody a letter. You'd get a couple of those. But when you started really talking directly to people, that's when I really noticed the connection growing. And I really do like that.
What would your advice be to, say, people who are just starting out, want to get into sports journalism or just, say, podcasting? What would be your advice?
Make your own path like you guys are doing. Don't wait for somebody to invite you. Make your own thing. And then I do think, I always say this, people come for the subject. People start, the Buckeye Lounge. Oh, I like the Buckeyes. Oh, I'm interested in that. But they stay for you. So you have to start talking about something that people care about, but then you have to share of yourself. You have to have a personality. You have to be truthful. You have to be real, but you have to be entertaining, right? And so if you can have that, if you can find a subject that people are passionate about, and what's better than Ohio State football, and then be yourself, share of yourself, invite the audience to share with you, it's not a magic formula, right? And it's not that every single person in the world can do it, but you can see, when I started off, there was like, okay, there's a couple newspapers that cover Ohio State, and that's kind of it. And now you see the explosion in different types of media and different people having the opportunity, and it's because you connect with your audience. So you've got to find a good subject and connect with the people who care about it.
That's great advice. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, by the way, Sage of Ohio actually went to ask, what do you think of the Indiana Hoosiers return to the mascot, the bison mascot? I found that so funny. I never even knew that was a thing.
No, I didn't know. The only reason I knew that is because there's someone who does a really smart and good Indiana football newsletter that's called Bite Size Bison, and I was like, why are they called Bison? What are they? So but what I liked about it is I think that came out of a student initiative at the university in December. I think the student government or something passed a thing we want the bison back. And the school responded to it. So when there is because college football is built on fans, but can feel very corporate sometimes, right? We all know that, especially when we wind up talking about lawsuits and finances and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with football fandom. When a university and an athletic department and a football team is responsive to something the fans want, this happens when Ohio State fans talk about uniforms, right? I like this about a uniform. I think the athletic department should listen to that. So if the fans want the bison back and they said the bison is back, awesome. Here for it.
Nice.
Now, you've been covering college football a long time, Doug. What did you think of the new playoff format, and what do you think of them wanting to expand it to 16 teams?
I wasn't on board with expansion right away. I used to think I'd rather keep a good team out than let a bad team in. And that was sort of my philosophy around 4. I always thought when we had polls I voted in the AP poll for a long time. Pollsters are idiots, me included. So we should not let people like me be voting on anything that matters at the end of the year. So I was very much in favor of an actual playoff where we decided on the field. But I have changed my mind, and I like opportunity. And I like it can be when you are an Ohio State fan and there's just an assumption. And again, the thing that I would put that I think Ohio State is the number one program for is Ohio State's always in the mix. And maybe over time, Ohio State has not won as many national titles as its fans would want. But you look at a program like LSU, which has, won a national title in 07 and won a national title in 04 and won a national title in 2019. But when LSU's not winning national titles, they're often down. They're out of the mix. They're 8-4. They don't matter. Ohio State always matters. They're always in it in November. I mean, the last time that they were out of anything, before October, is when they went 8-4 in 04, right? I mean, they're never, or the year that nobody counts in 11 when everything was nuts, and we understand that. It was a one-off. But So Ohio State fans, and I think the pursuit, the chase, the hope is what makes a season great. Not necessarily like, did you win it all? It's, did you chase it for 4 months? Did you talk about it in July? We could win it all. I think that is so exciting. So in a 12-team playoff, to bring in another probably 30 teams that now can have a discussion about, we could make the playoff. Like, how many teams in a 12-team playoff right now are thinking we could make it? I think it's probably like 30, 35 maybe. It's not 60, but I think there's legit probably at least 30. How wonderful for those fan bases. There's a lot of fan bases. Indiana, example last year. In the old days, Indiana just would have been trying to make like a bowl, and now maybe even their best players might have opted out of the bowl because bowl season got messy. To make the playoff and then go compete in Notre Dame Stadium, that's awesome. So I like the opportunity. I still think the regular season can be great. I like 12. I'm not against 14 or 16. So like, I'm fine with it. Opportunity is good. At some point, it's too much. I would not be in favor of a 32-team playoff.
Oh, heck no.
You know, like, you have to draw a line somewhere, and I don't think you can add more rounds. But to get the 16, eliminate the buys, I'm okay with that. But I think 12's a home run.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to worry about the games being watered down or the teams being watered down, because actually, how many teams really in a year actually are good enough to win it all? So, I mean,
exactly. I think the cap should be like 16 to 14 to 16. That should be the cap.
You're in favor of 14 to 16? That no more.
No more after that. 14, 16, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I was good with 8.
The hard thing is that every other sport does that. So the NFL lets in 16 teams, it's like, or 14 teams, 14. Right? Like, are all 14 NFL teams really competing for the Super Bowl? Probably not. But there are fan bases.
Well, there is more. I would say there is a lot more parity in the NFL, so you never know.
But I do think in the transfer portal era and the NIL era, you are flattening that out a little bit too. That they're not the 4, 5, 7 best teams aren't gathering the same amount of talent. That it's not going to get to the parity TG of the NFL, but there's going to be more parity. But even like Browns fans, right? How big of a deal was it for the Browns to make the playoffs and beat the Steelers that year? It was a huge deal. Yeah. Now, they still want to make the Super Bowl, but that mattered. Making the playoff mattered last year to Indiana. Making the semifinals and winning a couple playoff games mattered to Penn State, right? So I do think there are levels. It's not national championship or bust. And so it's one of those things like watered down. Obviously, there is something to that, but that's only for the top teams. I think that's an Ohio State perspective. That's a Bama perspective. That's a Georgia perspective. Almost everybody else would never think of it that way, because they're like talking about, we're not one of the 4 best programs in the country, but now we have a chance. That's not watering down. That's opening up. So it's just what perspective are you coming from? But of course, you can go too far.
Absolutely. And more importantly, I actually do like the fact of how the transfer portal has basically leveled the playing field. Because I'm not going to lie, as much as I loved college football back then, I was like, I want to see some more parity. I would love to see a lot more like how you see in the NFL. Because as much as people could complain about the NFL, it's entertaining seeing that there's some parity there. And people have a chance to compete for the Super Bowl. Whether you believe these teams go in the Super Bowl or not, that's up to you. But let's be real, there's a lot more parity. And even now, I've actually noticed this, where you actually do have teams as of right now in the NFL that could win it. Like the Commanders almost went to the freaking Super Bowl. The Commanders of all teams. And and going back to the Cleveland Browns, they almost beat the Kansas City. When Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, they almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs and went to the AFC game.
Absolutely.
And there's a chance they could have went to the Super Bowl. It's the same with the Buffalo Bills. They lost on a coin flip, and I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple of plays this past year where I feel like they should have beaten the Chiefs, but they got screwed over by bad officiating. But that's neither here nor there. But you've seen it in the NFL where it's like, but you've seen it constantly in the NFL where you have teams that could do it. You never know which one, but they're the ones that surprise you. I would love to see more of that in college football. I'm actually glad there's a little more parity. I'm not saying it's full-on parity, because you're still going to have the better teams. Like Ohio State, say whatever you want, still going to be one of the better teams. Texas, Georgia's still going to be there. But there's a lot more parity. And you've seen it with the 12-team playoffs this past year, outside of Ohio State dominating. So,
absolutely. No, and I mean, like, you look at, again, like a team like Indiana, like they're not there without the transfer portal. right? I
Right.
mean, you look at Notre Dame made the national championship game with the transfer quarterback. Ohio State won the national championship with the transfer quarterback. Oregon was undefeated in the regular season with the transfer quarterback. Washington, the year before, made the national championship game with a quarterback who transferred, right? Like there is the one thing that the best teams can patch holes
Yeah.
in the transfer portal era. Like Ohio State, right? Ohio State's offensive line recruiting had kind of been a thing as long as Justin Fry was there. Like, oh man, are they not and then it's like, oh, they just got 2 tackles in the portal. Now maybe the one tackle won't start, but like Ethan Onion was like, you go find him, and now all of a sudden you have a left tackle, and you're not punished for maybe your misses in recruiting before. And I there's almost a part of me that this sort of likes, like you have to pay for your mistakes. And so part of it is while the portal flattens things out and gives some teams more opportunity, it also is going to allow you like, oh, hey, like Oregon has all these great guys, but also like their running back left. So they got Mekhi Hughes from Tulane, and he's going to be one of the 5 best running backs in college football. Cool. That was easy. Like that's also going to happen. So while I do think it will provide opportunity, it's also going to allow, I think, the very, very best teams to almost always be good, because if you make a mistake in recruiting or somebody gets hurt or something, you just go in the portal and get out your NIL budget and you're good to go.
Yeah.
The one thing, though, is you're going to have kids now kind of test it like free agency, because some of these kids are switching schools almost every year now, almost chasing the bag. So that's about the only downfall that I see to the transfer portal.
I hope, we're still in the incomplete version of what this is going to be. We're not at the finish line, and we are in the muddy middle. We are in the chaotic. Progress is chaotic, right? And I do think it's progress, because anything that went from young men putting their brains and bodies on the line for no compensation other than a scholarship while everybody else made billions of dollars to them being compensated, I believe that's progress. That's good progress. So if it's messy to get there, then okay. But I do think like we can't be in a world where and the revenue sharing is going to be different. That's direct payment from the schools. So that's going to be more controlled. But like you can't sign an NIL contract and then leave in spring football and take your money and go to another school. It's like you go. So, but also that might require collective bargaining, or it's going to require something that you're going to get to something more like contracts, where it's like, you deserve to be compensated. But what happens in life for almost all of us is when you're compensated, you give up some freedom. So you can't do whatever you want to do. I think you should necessarily be able to, it's like before they had no money and no freedom, right? If you wanted to transfer, you had to sit out a year. Coaches could leave, players couldn't, and you weren't getting paid. Now they're getting paid and they have more freedom. Now they have ultimate money and ultimate freedom, and that doesn't work either, because that's not how stuff is. It's like I could, a lot of you have a job, you have to give 2 weeks notice, or you sign a contract and you can't break the contract, whatever that is. So we have to get to something that makes sense. We're happy to give you the money, you've earned it, but now you got, you signed a 2-year contract or whatever it is, and now you can't leave, or maybe, and they're working on this, or that there's not 2 portal windows. And you can't transfer in December and transfer again in May, right? Like this, I'm sorry, but you're compensated along the way. So, I mean, not there. I think we'll get there, but we're probably all going to have a headache for another couple of years until they figure it out.
I think one of the biggest things is when you have like Miami and Oregon and Scum and USC lately, who be giving out some of these big bags of cash to these kids. And it's like, you realize that's not the smart move, right? Because now you're not doing your school a favor, and you're definitely not doing everybody else a favor. Because I really do hate that. Like, why are you giving back?
I mean, Ohio State gives cash too, right? Don't they?
Yeah, but not. Here's the difference, though. They're not giving out millions and millions of dollars to unproven commodities. When I look at Ohio State, and I've actually listened to Ryan Day and Ohio State and how they have everything structured, they have everything structured in a way where it's like, most of the money is going to be spent on retaining the roster. The rest, middle section of the money will be spent on the transfer portal, because there are proven players. Recruiting, you're not getting paid as much as the proven players. Like, when you come into Ohio State, you got to prove it. You actually, even Kirby Smart, for as much as again, I get on the SEC with their whole little backstory with the whole paying players on the table back, man. We get on them for that, whatever. even he agrees with this. Like, he doesn't want to pay a freshman more than he pays a senior, especially because the only way you could do that is if this freshman is like a Jeremiah Smith, like you're generational, you're unbelievable, you're the best player. That's fine by everybody else because it's like, hey, you're the best player. Nobody at Ohio State has a problem that Jeremiah Smith got paid more. He actually got paid more than a lot of players on the roster, and that's because he was the best player. They admitted that. If you're the best player, if you're generational, I don't think people have a problem with that. I think players, mainly the seniors, the older guys are going to have a problem if you're paying younger guys more than them when they haven't proven a thing at all. That's where I think most of the problems will be with NIL.
You have to be strategic, right? There is going to be strategy to this with how you allocate money within your football roster, within your athletic department, what positions you prioritize, how you prioritize retention versus recruitment. And then even there's a discussion of, I was talking to somebody at Ohio State. It's like, how do you prioritize an All-American swimmer versus a second string offensive lineman? Right? Because this is like the $20.5 million in revenue that they're sharing. That's for the entire athletic department. So you have decisions to make there. And you do see some of these stories of, there was like the left tackle, I think that Texas Tech just paid. And it's like, how many millions of dollars did he get? And they got him. They won a 5-star battle. But to your TG, what does that cost them? What does that cost them down the line for what then, as they try to build an entire roster? Now you've used a lot of resources. If that guy doesn't pan out, is that wasted money? Does it have a ripple effect on your roster? So I agree with the idea that throwing money around, I think there are some teams who are throwing money around.
Yeah.
Everybody has to throw it around to some degree, or you're not going to get anybody. Right? If you're getting 5 stars, if you're getting top 100 national players, you're paying them. Right? That's just, they're not coming because of the brotherhood. But
not fully, because there are
strategy matters. Strategy matters for sure. And I think your point about that is very well taken.
I think where it's like, because it's not all 5 stars that want the bag. Because Jeremiah Smith, when he came to Ohio State, he said the NIL was very low on his list. He wanted to come here to be developed and to be a part of this brotherhood because the culture. And I know for a lot of people.
But if an Oregon receiver said the same thing, would you believe it? No. Or would you think that the Oregon? See why? Like you gotta be realistic.
How much they throw.
The best players are getting paid. Like Corey.
I know. Because here's the thing, though. Jeremiah Smith still got a big NIL deal from Ohio State. I know he still got a good deal from Ohio State. It's not like Ohio State won't pay players. They just don't want to go the limit of like paying these guys millions of dollars. I think you could give these guys great compensation. But if you're throwing millions at these guys, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you need to set a limit, have rules, a structure in place like Ohio State does. Sure. Yeah, you have to have that. Like, again, for Ohio State, what do they prioritize? Retention, transfer portal, then recruiting. And with recruiting, they're still going to give you a good NIL deal, but they're not going to pay you as much as they're paying the guys that have been on this team longer than you, the guys who are proven, the guys who are actually shown that they are capable. I think that should be the move that everybody makes because it's more of, if these players are proven and they're actually good players, pay them good money. You can't pay a freshman unless he's Jeremiah Smith. You can't pay a freshman more than you pay this older guy who's been here, who's been playing at his best at all times. Like, am I really going to pay a freshman at offensive line more money than Donovan Jackson? Or more
if
money?
You want him or not?
But that's the thing too. And the other part of it too is if you're doing that, like the thing with Ohio State is they're so fixated on culture. They know that if they do that, it would ruin their culture. So sometimes for Ohio State, they're like, okay, I don't care if you're a 5-star or not. I'm going to pass on you because I'm going to try to go find, and I've seen this with what they do is I'm going to go to try to find a kid who's willing to work his butt off, he may not be as talented as you, but I could turn this guy into something.
We can't act like Ohio State's all about culture and everybody else is throwing money around. I mean, that's just not realistic.
I'm not saying they're not all. I'm not saying they're not.
And nobody else has culture, and everybody else is paying, and your team's not paying. That's not how it works.
If Ohio State was all about that, don't you think team would have broke apart though?
So I do think the fact that Ohio State has really never lost a player in the transfer portal that they actually really wanted to keep. They've never lost a starter, right? I think that legitimately tells you a lot. They certainly have lost some backups that they would have preferred to keep, but it's hard for everybody to keep depth. So you don't see.
They actually have told those kids that they actually have told those kids you're probably not going to play here, so it's probably better for you to leave.
They have players that they would have liked to keep around as backups that got offered money and a chance to start somewhere else. They weren't telling those guys to leave, but
No,
they
not all of them,
understand.
but
They
some of them.
understand the deal of the modern world too, and that it's just going to be what they're not losing is play. They're not losing starters, and you see other schools lose starters. It's like, hey, our starting left guard just left after spring ball. That is not happening at Ohio State. So that isn't like that. That's a plus for their culture argument for sure. But I also will be curious.
I think one of the biggest arguments for their as far as their culture is 2024, because think about it. When teams that get paid with just money, I've seen this so many times, they fall apart as soon as adversity hits. With the 2024 team, they didn't fall apart at all. Instead, they just
fell apart against Michigan.
No, well, the coaching did. I'm not going to blame the players for that. They actually basically had called in a meeting room, because remember that story that came out about them putting in that. Yeah, because they did that to call out their head coach for the game plan, because I'm not going to lie, the offense game plan was terrible. And they wanted to try to fight and go and rally the troops and say, hey, guys, we may have lost to Michigan, but we still have a chance to go win that. We still got a chance to go do this. We should have played better. We should have won that game. We all got to hold ourselves accountable, especially our head coach, which is why I commend Ryan Day, because him holding himself accountable, that's what definitely helped. And it brought these guys closer together. That's why I kind of believe the culture for Ohio State a lot more than I believe others, because in a way, when you have culture, it'll shine in the biggest, most challenging moments when you're at your lowest of lows. Yeah.
Like when you lost 3 straight to your rival and you lose 4 straight when you're like a 3-touchdown favorite. Here's the thing. Every other season in college football history, they would have been out. They would have lost to Michigan, and and then a bunch of guys would have opted out of the meaningless bowl game. And the entire offseason would have been like, I cannot believe a team that talented, that everybody came back to win it all and beat Michigan, fell short again. So I 100% agree with you. Everybody who follows Ohio State agrees with the idea. Of course they rallied. Of course they were doubted in that moment. Of course they had culture to rally the troops. But they also were very fortunate for it was one season out of 150 in college football history where that had the opportunity to happen. And you're talking about, maybe you would be at 8. They would have squeaked in by the skin of their teeth in a team playoff. Opportunity is what allowed this amazing Ohio State story to progress. I think it is dangerous to think your team has culture, nobody else does. That's all.
I'm not saying no one else does. There are teams that have culture, but the ones that are just all about the money, it basically just shows that they are. When your team is just all about the money, it'll fall apart in adversity. It's like no one's going to care about the opportunities they got. They're just going to say, I got my money, I'm just going to up and leave. A lot of them are going to do that. So when you pretty much look at it from this standpoint, I'm going to just say this. I think with the Michigan loss, I've talked about it so many times. And Sean, you remember this. We talked about it so many times about how Ryan Day just has this mental block with them because of all the adversity, all the losses he suffered. And we know the real reason for that. But now it's for some reason it's up here. I don't know. We never knew. We can never understand. It's like, Ryan, now that you know the truth, why not just go out there and call the game like you're supposed to? I've said before, I think he needed that loss because it is the one thing that was going to get Ryan Day to wake up and say, stop playing conservative, start playing to win. Stop playing not to lose. Coach to win, not to lose.
I always figured that out with the Oregon loss. You shouldn't have needed.
Actually, I'm not gonna lie. The Oregon loss, I looked at this and said, "What is wrong with the defense?" I don't know. The defense was really the problem. Like, I wasn't mad because the offense was playing at their best, and obviously we all know what happened with Joshua Simmons, and I know Tegra had the game because of a back injury and got filled in for Austin Saraville, but I wasn't worried about the offense. The defense is what was ticking me off that whole game because I'm like, Knowles, what are you calling, dude? And the players even talked about it in interviews saying how confusing it was on defense, how many calls were coming in. They were so confused and they couldn't believe it. And they had to really, Ryan Day getting on him about that, getting on Jim Knowles about that is what fixed that defense for the rest of the year. But specifically for the Michigan game, he just tenses up and tries to play their game, which is something that's so irritating for us Buckeye fans. It's like, dude, we don't care how you win it, just win. But what really played and what I've said has gotten in his head was the run game. Oh, the toughest team wins. It's all about the run game. That's what's gotten in his head, especially with the national media feeding that. And I've gone back and debunked that argument saying, you do realize the multiple times Ohio State has beaten Michigan, it's not always been the run game that has won the Buckeyes. I remember a game back when I was a kid, where Jim Tressel went up against Michigan, and he went full on air raid. He had like 5 out receivers. I remember seeing this on another Buckeye show where they played the entire well, I should say season, the entire game. Well, not the game, but plays where they had 5 out receivers and they were beating them through the air every time because their defense was like to spread them out and make their defense like show what they're doing. And it's also times where Urban Meyer, he didn't always run the ball. He did have running quarterbacks. He also managed to beat them through air raid a couple times, especially with Dwayne Haskins. Like, he managed to do that before. So, like, my thing is with Ryan Day, we've seen our coaches throughout history be able to beat Michigan, whether it's through the air or through the ground or both ways. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just win the game, man. Just win. Doesn't matter what way you do it. Just win. And that's where Ryan Day keeps getting messed up, is he plays right into Michigan's hands. And instead of just playing your game and playing to win, you're playing not to lose and to show them that, yeah, I'm tough. I can run this ball. Dude, don't do that. Don't. Just don't. Play your game. Don't.
I agree 100%. I've said the same thing a million times, but you can't lose sight of the fact that still happened last year when they had all that talent returning. And again, they were fortunate, but then both things are true. They were fortunate that the structure of the sport changed, and then when given the opportunity, they seized it as well as any team has bounced back. I've there's some stuff with like Florida State in the 90s or this kind of thing where I'm not sure that there's ever been a college football team in a single season that had a low that low and then a high that high. Mm-hmm. Because usually if you have a low that low, that's it. Yeah. In the history of the sport, where you have to go undefeated or maybe have one loss, but to lose to your rival in the last game of the season, that usually would be it. But then that 4-game playoff run is now set the template for every playoff team in the history of the expanded playoff. Teams are going to be following that Ohio State model, but also you can't ignore how low that low was. And if a truly, truly, truly great team shouldn't need a low that low to reach a high that high. It's like, it motivated them. It was like, well, okay, get motivated without losing them for the fourth straight.
I don't think they needed it. I don't think they needed it, but I think Ryan Day needed it for his psyche, because for some reason it's him with Michigan. It's somewhere it's like, I gotta play conservative. I gotta play not to lose. I don't know why that is in his mind. It's just, it was for him. I don't think the team had that. I think for the team, they had the same goals that they had since they got there. Beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win the Natty. But for Ryan Day, whenever he plays Michigan, it's something up here where he's just so tight and he will not let him play his game. I will never understand that with him sometimes. I get it because I understand some of the stuff you've been through, but it's like, dude, please play your game. Just stop playing. Yeah. Just stop playing in your opponent's hands. Because, and Sean, remember I talked about this? Where, remember when I said that if you keep doing that, other teams are going to start trying to bait you into doing the same thing like Scum's doing? Because every team's going to start doing that with you until you prove to them that you're not doing that. And if you're Michigan, until Ryan Day proves to you he's not going to fall in your game, he's not going to play your game, you're going to keep pressing him to do it until he shows you he's done doing that.
Now, Doug, I got a question for you. Do you think now with the way it's set up with the playoff system, do you feel like that Michigan game kind of loses a little importance that it used to have? Because before, if you lost, you were done.
Did you just hear TG? Did she seem like it wasn't that important?
I mean,
it seems like she still cared about it, right?
I mean, people still care about it, but it's not the end all be all like it used to be.
Yeah, but I mean, it used to be the end all be all. But you're so mad when you lose to your rival. It's just like you can't let it go.
Yeah, I think if you define college football and what matters by now, I'm not miserable enough when my team loses. So it doesn't. Is that what you love about it? I love the misery. So now when my team loses, they get a second chance. But you know why I love this sport? Every other sport in the world, you can lose. The NFL, you can lose. You go 10-7 in the NFL and win the Super Bowl. Major League Baseball, you can win 88 regular season games and win the World Series. The NBA, you can lose. You're fine. But in the history of college football, you're supposed to go undefeated. And there was a very real chance for most of the time in our sport that if you lost one game, you were dead. And we all remember the Ohio State teams. Like, they were great. 98. They lost once. Maybe they lost twice, and they were dead. 2015, How good is that 2015 team? One loss, they're good. Is that what you love about it? Oh, oh my God. Let me tell you about this. This is why I love college football. There was this great team that Ohio State had. They won the national championship. They brought everybody back. Then it rained, and they screwed up the quarterback thing, and Ezekiel Elliott kind of got mad, and they lost, and it ruined their season, and they couldn't repeat. That was awesome. That's what made me love college football. And I curled up in the fetal position and didn't move for 6 months. Oh, my God, I love it. And they ruined it. Now they ruined it. Ohio State lost to Michigan, and they still won the national championship. And it's like the game doesn't even matter. Now I hate this sport because you can lose and it doesn't ruin your season. So like, is it the same as when Bo and Woody had to go through each other to get the? No, it's not exactly the same. Sure. Do Ohio State Michigan fans still feel like they're gonna puke for 3.5 hours on the last Saturday in November? Is there anybody who cares about Ohio State, Michigan, who's going to sit down for that game and be like, it doesn't matter. We're in the playoff anyway. It doesn't matter. I cannot imagine finding an Ohio State fan that would actually think that way. So then, like, is it maximum 100% of what it was during the 10-year war? No, the structure of the sport's changed. Is it like 95%? And ask somebody in the middle of the second quarter if it's lost anything, and I think they'll say, no. What do you mean, is it lost anything? I can't even breathe. So we've gained a lot. I think we've gained a lot. I also believe in letting players lose. I believe in letting 19-year-old players have a bad day and it not ruin their season. So, let them lose.
I think that's what I love about this season is like it gives teams a chance to grow and enhance themselves, so that way they ain't got to feel the pressure of, I constantly got to go undefeated. Because as great as that was, it's like, why not let these guys grow as time goes on? Right? Like they can lose 2 games and they'll grow and get better. That's what I loved about this season. Because that's the one thing that last season also showed is that, listen, Ohio State could lose, learn their lessons, grow and get better. And it gives and guess what? If you go into the playoffs now, you know to fix the mistakes and you can pretty much have a chance to go and win another national championship. I loved Ohio State versus Michigan as a kid, grew up hating them. Obviously, I still respected them before all the stuff started coming out, but I still respected them. And more importantly, always wanted to see Ohio State beat scum, win the Big Ten, and win the Natty. Like nowadays, I'm just happy they won the Natty because it's been like the last time they won the Natty in 2 of my lifetimes was the year I was born and 2014.
Mm-hmm. But do you care that they lost to Michigan last year?
I did at first, and then as time wore on, I've started like, okay, they still got a chance because it's like I'm literally was getting at Ryan Day's neck, like, okay, you better win this one, dude, because I've defended you for the longest. You better go into the Tennessee game and you better win this one, because if you don't win, if you don't go in the playoffs, you should get fired. You should. So I did care about the Michigan loss at first because obviously it was in my blood because I was so used to it. But the more I studied, the more I realized I was like, okay, I'm going to give Ryan Day a chance to prove me going to the playoffs. Still got a chance in the Natty. I want to see if he could pull this together. And if he can do that, I will be completely fine.
So it's just like, I think we can think 2 things. Yeah. I think you can be super excited about the Natty and celebrate that and the way they came back. And I think you can sad that they lost to Michigan 4 straight times. Like I think those, I'm not as mad. Those things can exist next to each other. And of course, because I talk about it. I usually talk, college football is on 2 paths right now, right? And that for Ohio State, there's like a Michigan path that's on fire. Like you can't even walk in that part. Like that path is crumbling under your feet. But there's another path now. There's the Natty path. Yeah. And that path is not the same as the Michigan path. For most of college football history, Sean, for most of our lifetimes, it was the same path. Yeah. Because if Woody didn't beat Bo, he wasn't winning a national title.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not like, oh, well, I can fail in achieving this goal, but still achieve this goal. So the paths have diverged and they cross over each other at times, but I think that's okay. And they're both fun. They both matter. It's just that there are 2 and there used to be 1. And I think it's okay that it's 2, but if there is a fan who says, no, I want the misery, I want my season to be ruined if you lose to Michigan, I understand that too, because a lot of people were raised on that. But if you can open your mind a little bit, I understand that thinking, but I do think this thinking can be healthier for fans without ruining the rivalry or without making the rivalry meaningless.
like some Ohio State fans were asked if you had to pick one or the other, which one would you go with? Winning a natty or beating scum? And that was like, because for a lot of people it was tough because obviously you grew up wanting both. But if you couldn't get both and you had to choose one, most Ohio State fans said, "Give me the natty, please. I've won a national championship."
I think it's
I don't know.
slightly generational.
Mhm.
I think it's slightly generational. I
Yeah.
think younger fans would say natty for sure. I think there are some older fans, again, who were
Yeah, there are
raised
some. Yeah, but
on
that's what I'm
Woody and
getting at
Bo.
too. It's like you have some people who are raised, and it's like they want to beat Michigan, but they have to pick one. It's like because you've seen Ohio State dominate this rivalry for like how long, Sean?
I mean, but see, I'm different.
No, I'm
because
getting that.
I'm
No, I know what
46.
you mean. I know what you mean,
I'm-
but I'm just saying, how long have they done it? And then it's like, how many natties have they won within this time span? I
mean,
think that's why some people would say I choose a natty over beating scum because it's like they've been doing it for so long, and we had so many chances to win natties, but we constantly screwed it up to a point where it's like, okay, just give me a natty, please. That's why I think where most fans are, where the old school fans, and even myself, I still want to beat Michigan. That still matters to me, but I kind of do want the natty a little more. That's
Yeah.
just it's hard to pick, but it's like, but if I want it all done in one season, even in this 12-team playoff. I want you to beat Michigan, I want you to win the Big Ten, and I want you to win the natty. I still want you to do that.
Right.
But if there was only 2/3 of the path you could get, if I'm being honest, I would take beating Michigan and winning the natty over.
But I'm sure you guys know Ohio State fans. Maybe there's some in the chat who would say, I'd rather Ohio State go 1-11 and have the one be a win over Michigan. Right. There are still some fans who think that way. And again, in the end, everybody wants both. So maybe you're 55-45, give me the Michigan win. Maybe you're 55-45, give me the natty.
Yeah.
But it's just a fascinating realization when one, it's as bad as, I mean, this is as bad as it's been since Cooper era.
Yeah.
The Michigan rivalry is on fire for Ohio State and also the defending national champions. And that is for people who were raised a certain way, you almost can't wrap your head around it, right? It's like if you tried to, I think about this a lot. What would Woody think? Woody,
like
Ohio State lost to Michigan. Well, I guess that ruined the season, but they still won the national title. What are you talking about? How did they win the national title? Right? Like it's somebody in the 60s, you couldn't even have imagined it. And now it's going to become like almost normal. It could happen again. Ohio State, Michigan might beat Ohio State, and Ohio State wins the natty. Ohio State might beat Michigan, and Michigan will win a natty down the line. Ohio State, Penn State might lose to Ohio State this year and win the natty, right? It's just a different world, but I don't think it's a worse world, but it is definitely a different world, and it can take people, I think, varying amounts of time to get used to it.
Yeah.
Now, how different would Cooper's, career would have been? Just think about John Cooper, all those teams he had. If you'd had a chance at a 12-team playoff with some of those teams he had, would he have won a national championship?
No doubt.
He probably would have, especially
no
with
doubt.
the '98 team, because
completely. I think you could argue that John Cooper might be number one on the list whose career would have been changed by a 12-team playoff.
Yeah. You can name a bunch of coaches.
Can you imagine 2-10-1, but there's two natties? Can you imagine in '98 they lose to Michigan State, but then they go to the playoff and steamroll everybody? He would have been helped by a 4-team playoff, much less a 12-team playoff. But Coop lived in the world where you had to be perfect. And he still lived, and again, he still lived in the Woody and Bo world, where if you don't beat your rival, you're not going anywhere. So if you could have told Ohio State fans, listen, man, this guy, he can't figure out Michigan, but we can still win the natty. What would Ohio State fans in the 90s have said? Nope. I don't want a natty if we can't beat Michigan. Or would they have said, oh, are you kidding me? Yeah. There's a path to a natty with losing to Michigan? Sign me up tomorrow. And that's where we are.
I think that's, and like I said too, when you pretty much look at Ohio State fans now, like when we all won the natty, it's like everybody's sorrows. Now, again, everybody's not happy about that. Like it still hurts your pride that you lost to your rival.
Yeah.
But you're more happy that you won the natty. You're like, listen, man, I know we lost to the rival, but all Ohio State fans are so much more happier because we just won the natty. And it's like the natty, look, it hurts losing your rival, but man, it feels so great to just win the national championship for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is why I think now still Buckeye fans are saying you still got to beat Michigan next year, because if we do five in a row, I'm gonna say that in quotation marks. we're not gonna handle it. It's like we
No.
love you, Day, but come on, man, you gotta beat Michigan at some point. You
He's
got
got to figure it out.
he's got to. He's got to. Like as much as I'm happy that we won the Natty, dude, you gotta win. You gotta beat Michigan to 125. You gotta figure it out this time. You gotta get. And even though he did beat him in 2019, it's like somewhere along the way, Connor Stallions, that we ended up losing in them 3 straight years and 4 straight years, and our Ryan Day can't even. It's just such mind-boggling. But I
Yeah.
believe this national title run probably helped him out a little. I think it did because it took that massive tiger off the back. So
100%.
now you got this little monkey on your back where it's like just beat the rival and then good. Beat him.
Yeah. So many Ohio State coaches won a Natty pretty early in their careers. And I don't have the stuff right in front of me, but Urban won it in year 3. Tress won it in year 2. I think Woody won it Woody won it in he started in 51, right? So he won it in year 4, right? That everybody who won a national title at Ohio State had won it by the time that like Day was late. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it took Day forever. But what happens is it changes everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because now you have capital. Now if your fans have a belief in you. Now fans have something to grab onto. And so when you have an extreme positive, then when you have negatives, well, then it balances out a little bit. And as many games as he had won and as successful as Ohio State had been, without a Natty and with a 4-game losing streak to Michigan, TG, you were saying it. I was kind of in the same place too. It's like, is this guy right for the job?
Yeah.
But now that conversation, even if somehow, and I know everyone can cover their ears, even if somehow it gets to 5 straight, it's still going to be different because it's 5 straight, but he's wearing a ring.
Yeah.
And that changes things forever. And it's just that Ohio State, man, Tress changed everything about him in year 2 and became Tress.
Yeah.
And then fans were very frustrated. I was there, man, when they were dominating Michigan, 9-1 against Michigan. And when they were losing in 06 and 07, the national title game, were the second best team in the country, there were a lot of angry Ohio State fans.
Oh, yeah.
But he still had a ring.
Yeah.
He had a ring, and he dominated the rival, but people were still mad because the standard at Ohio State is exceedingly high, and fans have a right to have a high standard.
National
So for Jay to be losing to Michigan and not have a Natty, that's a tough world.
Yeah.
But now he has a Natty.
And you know what? I actually found this pretty funny because, Doug, I don't know if you've ever thought this, but do you think it's better that Ohio State didn't win the Natty until year 6 for Ryan Day? And I say this for this reason. When you look at the coaches that have won it early, other than Woody Hayes, Tressor and Urban never really got, back to winning another Natty, even though they had chances to. It's like you had your chances, but it felt like your teams were kind of, I'm not going to say they were incompetent just because, but it's like 2015, they talked about it, how they were kind of incompetent. They didn't have the pressure on their back like they should have, and they should have repeated, and even they believe that. Do you believe, and when you listen to Ryan Day, you're thinking the monkey might get taken off his back. He might start to, kind of just feel like he ain't got to win another one. But instead, Ryan Day's like, I'm finna go ahead and go win me some more championships. I want to be known as the best coach in Ohio State history. I want to beat the rival, win more Big Ten titles, win more Natties, and be known as the best coach in Ohio State history. So do you think it was better that this time Ohio State won it later instead of earlier? Because I think for Ohio State, him winning it later means he wants to build more on top of it. Because he still got this pressure on his back, regardless of if he won it, just because you still got to beat the rival, and you still got more you want to prove. And you want to prove that you're the best coach in this sport. I think it was better for us that he actually won it later than earlier.
I think he's hardened. He's been through the fire.
Yeah.
Right? Again, Tress comes in and like...
Second year. Yeah.
02 is like, how could there be a better year than 02?
Right.
And then Urban wins his first 24 games at Ohio State, loses 1 game and is eating this pizza in the concourse, right? Like that's like sad pizza man. So, and then comes back and wins it the next year, right? That's a lot of highs. And Day, again, for all the success and all the wins,
he's had
had a lot to deal with. And I think having gone through that and now coming out the other side, I think you make a smart point about the idea of he suffered. And this is a conversation about the program. The players change. So really it's about the coach and the fans. So he suffered and the fans suffered with him. The fans doubted Ryan Day, I think, in a way that people didn't doubt Tress. Until, then they got to it. But Tress was up here. And Urban was up here. And then it's like, oh, man, Day It's like the doubt came first. And now that you've climbed the mountain together, and this was a thing, and I talked about this a lot last year. I did not love some of the conversations like Woody against the world. I hate Woody against the world. I do not like it when the football team is like, we're here in this building and like we're almost against our own fans. Like we're going to prove something to our own fans. I don't think that's the way it should be. Ohio State creates a high standard. Fans hold them to a high standard. It's good for everybody. I'm sorry that you lost to Michigan in horrible fashion. People are going to be mad. Yeah. But to then be like, Woody against the world. But I then, during the process of those 4 wins, you could feel the fan base and the program coming back together. And as we all know in life, in relationships, sometimes when you have a knockdown, drag out fight with somebody and then you make up, the bond is stronger. Because now you've been through something together. So having been through that low to that high and coming out the other side, I am very curious to see what this is like this year because, again, to your point, TG, and you keep bringing up great points, I think Ryan Day and this fan base might be very bonded by suffering together in a way that those coaches didn't early on.
Now, Doug, what would you consider a successful season for this year coming up?
15-0 and a natty. What are you talking about?
I mean, what can you do? You know, without everybody jumping off the cliff. Do you think so? Michigan make a couple playoff, Final Four. I mean,
I think. To beat Michigan, probably right if we're saying like what makes a successful Ohio State season. Although I agree with the idea of like there's a lot of people who's like get me a natty. I do think the Michigan game has reached the point where if I'm making a checklist of what an Ohio State successful season is, I think beating Michigan is number one. Because
because at some point you got to get it done.
Because to the point, it's like when you lose to Michigan and it's been like this, the only thing that wipes it out is a natty. So it's like, would you rather have a natty or beat Michigan? It's like, well, the natty, you got to beat 4 awesome teams to get there. Michigan, you just got to beat 1 team. So I know maybe you'd take the natty, but you know what's much easier? Beating 1 team in 1 game. Because if they had lost to Michigan and then lost in the semifinals to Texas, would everyone be like, well, I'll tell you what, I'd rather make the semis and lose to Michigan. Be like, no, now the Michigan loss is magnified. So I do think beating Michigan and making the playoff, it is such a reset. It is such a reset. Now, these aren't young players, but they're inexperienced. They're 4th-year guys who've been waiting their turn. And Jeremiah Smith's still going to be back. Julian Sainz probably still going to be back. Tavian St. Clair's still waiting there. You know, there's still I didn't like the term natty or bust. I pushed back against natty or bust because, like, bust to me means like if not now, when? It's like, well, what do you mean? Ohio State's national championship contender every year. So natty or bust, like, what's the bust? Is the program going to shut down? Like maybe for Day it would have been that, but like natty or bust, Ohio State's the most stable, successful program in college football. There is no bust. The whole point of Ohio State football is there is bust. There's no bust. Everybody else is busted. Texas busted. Bama busted. Michigan busted. Penn State busted. Everybody's busted. Ohio State has literally never busted. So I didn't like natty or bust. But the pressure, the expectations last year compared to this year, there's no comparison. So what would be a successful year? And by the way, I think you could argue that they play the 2 best regular season games. I think Ohio State, Texas, and Ohio State, Penn State, if you're really talking about like high-level teams with high expectations and great players, I think you could argue those are the 2 biggest games of the regular season. So what if they lose both, but they go 10-2 and they beat Michigan and they're the 8 seed and they win a first-round game and then lose to the 1 seed in the next round? Like, would Ohio State fans be disgusted with that season? I don't think they would be.
They'd be happy with the Michigan win.
They would be happy with the Michigan win and be competitive, matter, be fun, play well. Now, don't get your doors blown off by Texas and Penn State, but play high-level games that matter. But also, I've been around this long enough, and this is, I think, my 21st year being around Ohio State football. It is hard to sometimes tell Ohio State fans that this is anything other than like natty or bust. Because like it's like also natty or bust last year. Ohio State's natty or bust every year because the standard is so incredibly high. So I think reasonably beat Michigan, make the playoff is at least some level of success, considering how many guys you lost. But also, you might arguably have the two best players in college football. So also, that should probably help you win some games.
Last season, what was your favorite memory? Your favorite moment that you can say, man, that was. Is there one moment that you'll always look back on?
Probably. I mean, mine would be the same as everybody else. Probably either the screen to Travion before half. That is like an injection of like, holy moly. The deep ball to Jeremiah Smith in the national championship game that wrapped it up. Or like what is arguably the greatest play in college football history, which is the Sawyer scoop and score. So like that is like, and but in Ohio State history, it's like you're putting like moments again, like that.
There's so many.
Like in the modern, like in the modern and the last 3 national title runs. I mean, is it? I mean, I don't know. Is it Clarett stripping the ball away, or is it the end of that game and the flag coming out in the second chance? It's 85 yards through the heart of the South, and then it's the Sawyer scoop and score. So, like, I think like the Sawyer scoop and score, I think will be like 85 yards through the heart of the South. Like that's just a defining thing of like it's a moment in time that every Ohio, and it's not just that you remember it, but it's that you feel it. Like, do you guys feel that? Do you remember what like the things that went through your body when that play happened? So
jumping up and down, screaming,
I mean, like that. And what a beautiful thing, like which is why
especially for an Ohio kid that grew up in Pickerington, knows the rivalry. I mean, come on, that was the hero moment.
Pulled the recruiting class together during COVID and like all like that guy. Are you joking me? And doing it to like his old friend who had been at Ohio State, like it's ridiculous. So
that was awesome.
Hard.
That was awesome.
That's crazy.
I'm like that was like amazing story.
How could
that's what Jack was going through too? He couldn't even go get wings at the restaurant without people harassing him for losing to Michigan. So I mean, for that kid to get his moment, it's awesome.
I mean, that's
and he should have got his hero moment in the Scum game, but obviously he got screwed over. But hey, it is what it is. And I do want to do a quick shout out to our man Vader for helping us with the show. He's one of our producers for the show, and even came out with this amazing pretty much stuff that we set up for the show. I just want to shout him out real quick. And Doug, I'm gonna ask this because have you seen the whole thing with the CSC, how they've been rejecting NIL deals, and more importantly, some new rules that started to come out, such as like the what was it called, the Sean, the SCORE Act, if I'm not mistaken, has been implemented by the Congress.
Well, they passed through committee, I think 12 to 11 today. So it's proceeding down the path.
It's like, what do you think of how this is going? Because remember, they had like Ross Bjork said, and this actually makes Ross Bjork look even better, for God's sakes. But he basically has said that a judge had passed this CSC with a House settlement versus NCAA type of rules when regarding to NIL, and said how they needed Congress's help a little more to help stable this. What do you think of that? Like how Congress is actually making moves to help stable the NIL stuff.
Yeah, I don't love that college football like needs the federal government to fix it, because I sort of feel like doesn't the federal government have enough other things to do than fix college football? You know, that like can't you fix yourself? But college football has proven unable to do that for
wasn't it though that the Congress was the reason why NIL started? Because remember, they had to, because the NCAA got sued so many times, so the NCAA had to go to Congress.
Well, it was the court ruling,
so they had to go to Congress at that point and say, okay, we got to go to the courts.
I don't love it, but I think that our sport should have structure. I think rules are good. Why does everybody else get to have rules? And it makes me mad when people are like, you can't have any rules in college football. It's like, why not? Other sports have salary caps. Other sports say you can't just be randomly handing $3 million to a player and circumventing the cap. Other sports have rules about tampering. It doesn't mean tampering doesn't happen, but there are rules against it. And if you get caught red-handed, you get penalized. Like, why can't we do that? Like, why can't we have that? And so one of the things that aggravated me the most about covering the sport was like when everything was under the table and everybody knew it, but no one would ever really say anything about it, but you knew it was happening and it was just like, it's cool and it's shady and like, and it's like, why is that cool? Like, I don't like, so everyone's cheating and like, hey, we just like the cheating sport. I don't know.
I don't
I
like that. I
personally
don't.
like rules. I like structure. I like trying
I
to even the playing field. Competitive balance matters. So
hmm
like, and I actually think like as they get this figured out, I think it can work, right? The revenue sharing, everyone say is $20.5 million for everybody. So that's kind of like a salary cap. And then NIL, that's up to you. Maybe, some schools are better at it. So that's kind of like an extra, like no salary cap. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. But also if they're rejecting deals because the intent is not just for boosters to hand over millions of dollars to players and they want it to be like a legitimate endorsement, that actually would
Yeah,
help a place like Ohio State.
that's
Because in a
actually
bigger
what.
city like Columbus with this type of exposure, Texas Tech isn't going to be able to do what it's done this offseason if they're going to reject all those kind of deals, right? So it's not perfect. It's messy. It's incomplete, but I am glad that someone's trying to do something because a sport with no rules, I just think is not the best version of this sport.
Do
It's
you think
not.
the sport needs a commissioner?
I mean, it would have been nice if the NCAA president had done his job for the past 20 years. I mean, it's a joke. Hard, and it's just so different and it's so complicated. And I mean, it starts with the players who are sort of half kids, half adults. That's what everybody does in college. You go in as a kid, you're a high school kid, you come out as a grown-up. It's like, well, that's the labor force. So that makes it more complicated already. NFL teams and NBA teams aren't trying also pay for swimming teams and fencing teams and soccer teams. And can you imagine the Washington Commanders were like, hey, by the way, I know you want to sign this free agent, but you have to make sure that you set aside enough money for the baseball team. Or we built a new rowing house. It's like, what are you talking about? So the football is professionalized now in so many ways, but there's so many other considerations. So like breaking off football, having a football commissioner, letting football make its own rules, still providing money so all those sports, as many as possible, can still exist, I think is the right solution. But like the world when we tried to pretend that like, yeah, football, soccer, swimming, fencing, it's all the same. They're all sports. It's like, what are we talking about?
No,
One of them
football
makes
the
money
most money.
and the others don't. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry people like football, but why do we have to put our head in the sand? I'd like college football players have funded the U.S. Olympic movement for generations. And nobody ever asked those football players who are out there getting concussions. It's like, hey, by the way, would you guys mind if we took all the money that we're making from you throwing your body around and we gave it to the swimming team so we can try to win a couple gold medals in swimming? And they were just like, oh, the Olympic movement. Thank you, football. And the football players were like, I never agreed to this. I like swimming, but why are they getting my money? So we should be able to pay the football players and still have a swimming team.
Yeah.
But there's harder choices to make. Maybe we have to pull back a little bit on some stuff. But sometimes when it's like, oh, how dare you? It's like, you got to have 36 sports. Well, there's a bunch of those sports, no offense, that nobody cares about except the parents of the players.
Yeah.
So if those sports go away, do those sports make the world better? Do those sports draw in huge fans? Do those sports improve the university? Most people don't even know they exist. So I'm not saying your sport has to go away. Maybe you don't get a scholarship for it.
They could be
Maybe
club.
if you love the sport,
club
play the
sports.
sport.
Club sports.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of things. The football team doesn't fund violin scholarships. What's more important, violin or fencing? I would argue violins. But what does fencing have more in common with football or violins? I would argue violins. Why is the football team paying for fencing? Doesn't make any sense. You can't pay for everything.
Well,
Anyway,
they can make those sports. They can make those
I'm not
sports.
anti those sports. Yes, I agree. Opportunity is wonderful. Opportunity is wonderful. And playing sports is wonderful for people.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a scholarship for it is like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of smart kids out there who are paying for college because they don't happen to play a sport that nobody cares about. But God forbid we take away scholarships from a sport that nobody cares about. I think it's an odd argument to me, just because it's been that way. I don't. Sorry, it never should have been that way.
I think if you ask me, that if it's a sport, you can still get a scholarship for it. It's just that you won't have to do much with it. It's like it won't cost as much money. Because myself and Shauna talked about it. Like, they can make all these sports club sports, and then you're not really having to worry about it. Like, just keep around 15 to 20 at the utmost. Like some of the other schools, like Bama and Georgia and them, like we're still gonna keep around basketball and all those other places. But and talk about the NIL with what you were saying, if they're planning on making it actual NIL, that's actually what the point of the rules that they made are. Is your elective is not a collective will soon be irrelevant. You cannot just outwork
Good.
pay these kids. You can't do that. A legitimate business has to give these kids money. They have to pay them to make sponsorships show up. Now, if an NIL campaign want to do that, then yeah, you could pay a player to do certain events and stuff to make money. But you can't just pay 20-some kids a bunch of money. It has to be a legitimate NIL deal. Legitimate.
Right.
You can't just throw money around, which is what I love about this NIL deal, because I had started NIL rules because I dug deeper into it, and I was like, finally we're getting some rules. Now it's got to get enforced while the CSC still kind of setting up a little bit. I really do believe it's going to get enforced because they've already started with rejecting a bunch of these NIL deals. And with Texas Tech, I think some of that money might go to their revenue sharing with the football team as far as their tackle, because I think everybody else they have on their roster is like a bunch of 3-stars who aren't going to get paid a whole lot of money.
They paid,
like this,
I mean, they paid for like 40 transfers this offseason.
Yeah, and a bunch. It was super funny. Is a bunch of those guys were 3-stars, and I'm like, wow, you are crazy. And I'm like, how are you paying for this guy when you just got this many? But again, I got to see what they were doing, because I said the same thing with USC, where I'm not sure if you're following the rules or if you're just doing the pay for play. I'm not sure about that one. I'm just not sure with that, because they are doing the same thing Ohio State does, where we have the Buckeye Sports Group, where we took the NIL collective in-house and are now using them as middlemen, like they're supposed to be used to facilitate these deals with these kids. I wonder if that's what they're doing, which is how they're getting at, because you have a bunch of businesses lined up trying to sign this one kid to like make a deal so that way they can make money off them. I don't know how they're doing it. I got to see how that works. Yeah. And like I said, either with Texas Tech, you're doing the same thing, or it's through the revenue sharing. So it's one or the other. Oh, and our friend Eric also wanted to ask, who would you want to see as college football commissioner?
Not Nick Saban.
That's like everybody's answer, you know.
Nick Saban.
I mean, it's probably a business person, right? I mean, it's probably somebody who cares about the sport and understands the sport, but is like not a former coach.
Someone like the NFL commissioner.
Yeah, they didn't make Barry Switzer the commissioner of the NFL. They hired like a business guy, right? Yeah. So I mean, like that's so random business person X who cares about college football, right? And I mean, it could be, you know, like people always used to throw out like Gene Smith for like some of those bigger positions like that when you've run an athletic department of that size, but he also played college football. There are other, I'm not saying Gene Smith, there are other people like that with backgrounds like that who understand the value of college sports, but then, you know, it is a business. So, and football's still a business, right? And also, I don't want someone who isn't. I know Nick Saban is a son of the North, West Virginia, Kent State, Toledo, the Browns, Michigan State. No, but he also resurrected the SEC for 20 years. So I don't want an SEC coach running college football.
Now, Doug, before we let you go, because we've been on here for over an hour.
Sorry, I talk a lot. I apologize.
Hey, man.
No, that's fine. I love it. I love talking to you. I love it.
Football.
Having this kind of conversation with a guy like you, I absolutely love it.
I just want to get your feel. What do you think that they do this year? Give us a guess on how you think Ohio State does this year.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs are such a starting point. That was the most interesting thing to me about last year, that it was about this foundation of all these guys who had been there and came back, but also it was two young guys who were the two best players in the team, right? For all those great players, who were the game changer? Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith were the game changers. Yep. So to have those guys back, it's hard with Julian saying, I don't know that any of us can pretend to know. I am happy to make Julian Sayin and CJ Stroud comparisons, and I will admit I had a lot of questions about CJ Stroud. They both barely played their first years at Ohio State, and the thing we have to remember is it was not perfect for CJ Stroud when he came in.
Yeah,
he had kind of a rough first half, and on Thursday night at Minnesota, and then he figured it out. Right. Then he played well in the Oregon game, but when he got the ball at the end of the game, that wasn't lost. That loss wasn't on him at all. But he had the ball in his hand at the end of the game and like didn't get it done. It was a second start, right? Then he had like another Tulsa game was like kind of like a little bit of a rough game. Then he has like the little procedure, and then by the end of the year, you think he's going to win the Heisman. So I think there are reasonable comparisons, possibly, between C.J. Stroud and Julian Sand. C.J.'s brain was a computer. He was incredibly accurate. He studied like a maniac. I'm not going to pretend I know Julian Sand as well as I knew C.J., but I think like when you see his accuracy and his quick release and some of those things, I think that's possible, but there were bumps. So like, is Julian Sand going to go out and beat Texas in week 1? I don't know, man. That is a high bar. Now, maybe you target Jeremiah Smith 19 times and say, go win this game, and that might work pretty well. But, it's hard. The guy that I keep thinking about is a guy like Kenyatta Jackson, who I remember being at spring practices like 2 years ago, and I was like, that is a guy, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think he played 350 snaps last year. He certainly played more than he had before, but he's a year 4 guy who's never started, who I think at bend and feels like he can really get after people on the edge, right?
Yeah.
But it's not his fault that Jack and JT stayed 4 years. But like, what is Kenyatta Jackson? I think he has a chance to be really good. Mm-hmm. But it's year 4 and he hasn't been asked to do that yet. And there's just enough guys like that I don't think Now, what's the floor? I mean, the floor for Ohio State is the highest floor in the country, right? Like the floor is incredibly high. Yeah. I would be shocked if they go 9-3. I would be shocked. Yeah. And I made a 9-3 prediction in 2019 that there are plenty of people who still call me 9-3 Doug, because I thought year 1 of Ryan Day, year 1 of Justin Fields, I thought they were going to go 9-3, and they ran through the regular season undefeated. So I would be surprised if they go 9-3. I'm not going to be surprised if they go 10-2, because guess what? They went 10-2 last year and won the national championship. Yeah. So that's the thing. So do I think this team is going to go 12-0 or 11-1 when last year's veteran team went 2 and they played Penn State and Texas? No, I don't think they're going 12-0 or 11-1. Do I think they'll make the playoff? Yes. Do I think they'll be competitive by the end of the year? Absolutely. Do I think we will go into the playoff thinking Ohio State has a chance to win the national title? Yes, I think we will. I do not think I will pick them to repeat. But in this day and age, all you got to do is be one of the 12, and you got a chance. And guess what? With the talent level at Ohio State, with a coaching staff that has been through it, and we cannot ignore the fact losing Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles is a big deal. I understand the Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline hires, but nobody can brush past that. Because a year ago, you would have said Ohio State has the best coordinator combination in the country. It's both guys. So they don't have the best coordinator combination in the country right now. That's no offense to Brian Hartline and Matt Patricia, but it's just based on resume. So that's going to matter. And that's going to be a lot on Ryan Day. But the coaching, to your point, TG, the coaching job that Ryan Day and that staff did during the playoff is as good of a coaching job as you'll see in college football. Mm-hmm. So
I'm not worried about the Matt Patricia one. I just want to see how Brian Hartline does as offensive coordinator. Because as a defensive coordinator, I've seen Matt Patricia his entire time. I've studied him. I'm like, this dude is such a genius, and he knows how to work with the talent he has. His entire defense is completely player personnel. He has no strict system. It's all about who are the players on my team, what are they good at, and how am I going to create a scheme that fits around them. Whereas with Brian Hartline, because he hasn't proven it yet, I want to see how well he does as offensive coordinator calling plays. Now, I have heard he gets a little pass happy at times. I mean, he is a wide receiver coach, so that makes sense. But he is starting to understand the run game a lot more, which I enjoy that. And Bobby Mack, thanks for the 2. I'm not sure if you want to answer this one, Doug. Do you?
I am bad at rumors. So anyone hear the rumor, the hammer drops? I have not heard that rumor. But I would not know. I would not know.
Yeah, I figured, but I figured I'd get that one out the way. No, it's cool. I figured I'd get that out the way now, but I just want to point that out. Like, I'm not worried about Matt Patricia. I think he's going to be one of the best defense coordinators in college football. I want to see what Brian Hartline does.
I mean, he couldn't get a job for a couple of years. They weren't banging down his door.
24. And he actually left that because I think he realized.
But
and he actually talked about it himself.
Since he left the Lions, he was not calling defenses.
Yeah, no, for good reason. And I think he was better for him not to. And I think even he talked about it. He said
if someone had asked him to do it, he would have done it.
Yeah, he did. Actually, when the defensive coordinator of the Eagles got fired, he did call defense. But it was well after the defense was already in shackles. And I'm like,
and then they didn't bring him back.
No. Yeah, no, because I think Matt Patricia. Yeah. No, here's the thing: Matt Patricia didn't want to come back, and from what he said, he was like he needed to take a step take a break from calling plays, take a look in the mirror, and
Which is
realize.
also a thing you say when nobody wants to hire you to call defenses. It's like,
No, I
oh,
don't think. First of all,
when I get
I think
fired
Matt
from my
Patricia.
podcast, I'm sure I will at some point. When I get fired, I'm going to say, you know what? I just needed a break from talking about college football for a
I
while.
actually do
It's
believe
not
Matt
back.
Patricia is still a very good defensive coordinator. I don't think he's terrible at job. Like where everything goes bad for him is his time with the Lions head coach. Because as the head coach, he was terrible. Like there's no ifs, ands. But every coach at the Lions before Dan Campbell was trash too. So
I'm not against it. I'm not against it. And I don't think it's I think it probably will be fine. But I don't know that we can just be like, oh yeah, of course it's going to be fine. It's like, well, I don't think it's of course it's going to be fine. But it seems like since he's been here, he's made very good impressions. He's taken all the right steps. He's said all the right things. So I do think Ohio State fans feel better about it now than they did initially. But I'm
I don't think
curious.
you question. I think when it comes to Matt Patricia, I still think he's great at calling defense. Like when you ask every person who knows him as a coach, they would say the dude is a great defensive mind. Like he knows, and like I said, one of the things I love about Matt Patricia is you don't stick yourself to a specific system. You do it based on your player personnel. That's one of the biggest gripes I had with Jim Knowles' defense is it was only specific for a specific personnel. You didn't know how to fit people in your system, so you had to like just make people play your system and do it your way. Whereas with Matt Patricia, it's like, no, just like I'm gonna put your style and I'm gonna make a defense out of it. Because guess what?
But they also hired Jim Knowles because he ran that style of defense and it was very effective. I mean,
because that's the thing though. That's the great thing though. But one of my irritations with it was the pass rushing. I hated the pass rushing. The pass rushing was such an irritation.
But you hire a guy who has a system because you want a defensive identity and you want somebody with strong ideas and you bring him in and then that guy leaves and you're like, no, we want a guy who just adapts to the players. And then whenever Matt Patricia leaves, then they're going to hire somebody who has ideas. Like it's just.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying I'm mad at Jim Knowles' identity. I actually think it was great that he did that. I'm so frustrated with how he used the players in a certain way, mainly the defensive line, because it's like, why are they just cage rushing? Can't they do more than that?
And I mean, the Jack thing was a
I just hated that.
Crazy
that's the one thing.
for
I was
3
like,
years.
That was my thing. That was my thing. It's like that's what I'm talking about. It's like, dude, we don't have your type of Jack. Well, actually, I think CJ Hicks was that, but I don't think Ohio State really looked at him as such. Where they're like, dude, we got 4 great D linemen. We don't need the Jack. Just predicate your defense to this D line based on the strengths that we have, which is 4 elite D linemen. We have that. Use that. He struggled with that for the first 2 years, and like year 4, not year 2, year 3, year 4, he finally figured it out. I was just like, okay, at some point we got to do something. I love this defense. I think it's hard for some people to master if they haven't been in it long, and I think you have to find a way to make it easier for people to understand it. Because if there's one thing about Knowles' defense, it was so hard for the players to catch on within 3 years. Now they finally did it. I love the defensive identity. But I also think you need to mix some stuff up every now and again. And that's what I did love about what Knowles did in the playoffs when he had the Vegas 2 formation, I guess is what we can call it, where Caleb Downs kind of like your middle, somewhere like 10, 12 yards from where he's like
invented a new position.
Yeah, like I'm
4 levels of the defense. I love that. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm talking about. Like that, I loved about that. I'm like, okay, thank you. We finally got something like that. And I think you actually do have guys like Miles Lockhart, who I think plays a similar style to Caleb. So I think you could do him the same way. And when you look at this kid they're going after in Braylon Womack, I see they could do that with him too. Like you can do something like that with the system. But I just want to see more done with it. Because I think we have players on the team that are capable of contributing. They just don't fit the system fully. So it's like, how do we balance the system while also trying to fit these players in? Like, what is the best way to get them to fit? That's what I want to see more of. It's like, I'm not mad about the identity. I just want to see more versatility in the defense. A little more versatility.
Just
with
put your
the player personnel.
Just put the players in a position to succeed. That's all I ask.
Yes, that's all I'm asking is put them in a position to succeed. Do not set them up for failure in a lot of ways. That's why I hated the Jack.
Yeah. Don't blitz J.J. McCarthy on 3rd and long and leave a corner on an island where one missed tackle leads to a touchdown for Michigan.
Great point.
Or better yet, like zero cover. Don't do that all the time. Just do it every now and again. Like do it unexpectedly. Even though I will say throughout that game, he wasn't doing it all the time, but there were times he did it where it was like, brother, you probably shouldn't do that.
He did it at the worst time.
Yeah.
He did it
right.
at the
Georgia
worst
game.
times. Like that's when, it's like at the worst time. It's same with the Georgia game. It's like, dude, don't do that. Come on, man.
Yeah.
The defense was playing well. You actually doing something pretty right, and then you do the zero blitz at the worst point. Like that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, Doug,
I agree.
we appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Can you let everybody know where they can find you? Plug your shows for them.
Yeah, so you can find Kings of the North on YouTube. We do shows every Monday and Wednesday. We will be at Big Ten Media Days. That's at noon, live at noon, but then it's on YouTube. We'll be at Big Ten Media Days in Vegas next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And also you can find Kings of the North in every podcast feed. We talk about 28 Northern college football teams in the top half of the country. Obviously, a lot of Ohio State. Columbus is the capital of Northern college football. And then we actually have a special project that we are planning to drop the first episode in our podcast feeds on Monday. It's called The 25-Year Winter, and it is a 5-part narrative podcast about the North winning 2 national titles between 1998 and 2022 and why that happened, how the North kind of let the South take over for 25 years, and why we think that era has now ended and Northern college football is ready to compete again. So if you subscribe, if you are a podcast listener and you just subscribe to Kings of the North, that'll just drop in that feed. And then if you want to find us on YouTube, we'll also plan to drop the 25-year winter in that feed as well. But we'll have a bunch of shows from Vegas next week talking to everybody in the Big Ten.
Nice. Guys, if you have not checked it out, please check it out. Subscribe. Help Doug out. I mean, Bill and Doug do an awesome job. Love your guys' show. And thanks again for coming on, Doug. And give
let me ask one more question.
Sure.
Let me ask one more question. So, Sean, you are a lovely person. Thank you for inviting me on the show. It's been awesome to be here. EG, how old are you?
23.
You know a lot of ball. You're crazy. Everybody
I mean,
says
it's been that way.
I mean, it's pretty
everybody
obvious.
says that. They've been saying that since I was like 3 years old. Literally, I was 3 and I knew more about football because I was such a geek for. I'm such a geek for sports. I'm a geek for football. I'm a geek for basketball. I'm a geek.
You are like a football fountain. Like it is hard to keep up with you. You got a lot of knowledge. Yeah. So this is a great show, and I'm honored to be a part of it for one episode.
Thanks for coming on. You're welcome anytime. The Michigan fans really hate her, and she gets them going. They have made 3 or 4 podcast shows about her, complaining about her, crying about her. So she gets under their skin so bad. Oh, they flip out about it. We love it. So
that's how you know you're doing something right. When there's some people that hate you, you know you're onto something.
Dude, they be making so many podcasts and videos about me. You actually be funny. Like, Burks, our Michigan fan in the chat, be calling me like, "You're the nuclear bomb for the Michigan podcasters out there," and I'm like, I take that with great pride. I love it, to be honest. I love getting on their nerves.
Crazy.
Everybody in the chat, we thank you for coming on. Everybody, thanks for the support. Our awesome guest, Doug Lesmerises. Thanks again, Doug. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming in, kicking it for, almost an hour and a half with us. So,
told you, we talk a lot. Thanks for having
me. Like me.
It was a lot of fun.
Hey, it's great. Hey, when you got great football minds, they're going to talk a lot.
Yeah. Everybody have a great night.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks again. OH.
Ayo.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone. Thanks.